that. If it ever got back, it's like 75 X.
I know.
Just to get back to where it was.
With pretty minimal risk, all things
It's
considered.
like, well, what, you know.
Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back. It is the NFL Strategy Show, Divisional Round Weekend, baby. 2-game Saturday, 2-game Sunday. We're here to break all of that down before we head into championship week and then wrap it up with the Super Bowl coming up quick. But first, we got eight teams, four pretty intriguing games for one reason or another. Just studs from top to bottom. The pricing, these, like, if you haven't looked at pricing yet, we're about to get into it. But like the salaries, it's definitely, these players are definitely priced with the fact in mind that, hey, there's so many good plays on this slate and not a lot of good value at this stage of the game. Going to be really interesting to see what type of lineups we come up with. So let's dive into it. I'm Dave Loughran at Lafayette_D on the Twitters, LOUGHY_D. Give your boy a follow here. And while you're at it, follow Jazzraz DFS. That's Ben Rasa. What's going on, brother?
What's up, dude? Yeah, we're down to the Elite Eight. Use a little hoops term. So we've got, someone asked me, I was just on a call and we were talking a little NFL. It seems to me realistically, I think you can make a case that almost every one of these teams could ultimately win it. Maybe not Jacksonville, but honestly, I see paths for the rest of these teams to make a pretty deep run. It's a cool little quarterfinals that we got going on here.
You see a path for the Giants?
Yeah.
I
don't think they're going to, I'll get right to it. I don't think they're going to beat Philly, but if they do, there's no reason why they can't keep going.
Yeah, at that point, they got the wind at their back.
Like, you don't want to play a team like that. We've seen it time and time again.
No, we've seen it we've seen it with the Giants twice in the last 15 years or whatever.
They get hot.
I know. It's going to be fun, though. I have some takes here. I would like to have some fun as well to kick off the show. Okay. Let's give our leans from a betting perspective before we get into the DFS angle of this, which it is a DFS show, of course. Just go 1 through 4 on these games. If you had to take a side, right, against the spread, of course, who would you go with? Starting with the Chiefs laying 8.5 at home.
Yeah, so even before we do that, I will say from the betting side last week, I was actually pretty happy with stuff, except for the Vikings, which was a huge misstep by me. What a disgrace.
Throwing 3 yards on 4th and 8.
Just bad. I know not everyone, but a lot of people have said rightfully so, the Chiefs, they win these games, but they keep it closer than they should, than they need to. I still would lay the points here.
I think the Chiefs roll them, Ben.
Yeah, I kind of do too. We're not going to get too crazy into the Chargers, but like, I didn't think the Jaguars did much of anything.
No, they got picked 4 times. Doug Peterson's play calling to start that game off throughout the entire first half was terrible. He's like, all right, my guy is not with it right now. Let me just have him continue to throw the ball as much as possible. Chiefs don't relinquish that type of lead. And honestly, you and I have said this for the past 2 months. The Chargers and Brandon Staley, congratulations to you, pal. Mike Williams not playing in that game with a broken back. Yeah. That passing offense for the Chargers, they're so dependent. And as good as Herbert might be, he couldn't hold a candle to Patrick Mahomes, right? Like, you agree with that, right?
Yeah. It's just a different level.
So yeah, I would say I do like the Chiefs. When I say they're going to roll them, I mean, from a playoff standpoint, I think this could be like a 13, 14 point win, and it wouldn't shock me. Even though they have not played well against the spread, they have not performed well against the spread at home this season. It's hard for me to look at that and not think the Chiefs could come out and put up big numbers against the 30th ranked pass defense in the league.
Yeah, I feel the same way. It's an Arrowhead. You can only, there is something to, but honestly, I'll reference Minnesota again. There is something to be, when you're down and you've been down and you win games, there's something to that. But there's also something to, you can't do that forever. Eventually you get it down to the wrong team at the wrong time and you don't come back. And it feels like the Jaguars have survived the Titans and they've survived the Chargers. If you do that against the Chiefs, you're not just going to come back. That's a good
point. Exactly. Like they don't, and the Jags are a super young team, pretty green when it comes to playoffs. I don't know. We'll talk more about that. Philadelphia laying 7.5. This one bounced a bit, went to 7, moved back to 7.5. I think this is a bit of a tougher one for me.
Yeah, this is a tough spot as well. I mean, the Giants, obviously, Daniel Jones took a real step. I love their play calling. They utilize him as they should, a true dual threat. They're going to do all that. It's hard for me because I don't know, and you would know it's your account. Like, if I knew Jalen Hurts was fine, I would lay the points here. I know everyone's saying the Giants are coming in hot. They're playing the team third time.
I think he's fine, if that helps.
Okay, well, then I would lay the points. It's not a game I'm really looking to bet, particularly, if it crosses 7, I'm going to be saying some different things. But at 7.5, it feels about right. I'll just say, and I'm an advocate of this, it's hard to play a team a third time. But at the same time, if you look at the historical trends, the team that beat them the first couple of times still is more likely to win the third time. Right.
I like that. And
yeah,
look, that game in week 18, they just wanted to play that to survive. You could tell, very vanilla offense. They didn't let Hurts run at all. Why would you? Knowing that if you get the win, you have a bye week, another week of rest for him. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson's back. Lane Johnson, what an impact he makes, dude. Go look at their record for Lane Johnson's career when he's out. Now, I will say, though, he's playing with a torn groin. He was just on the Pat McAfee show the other day. Like, playing with a torn groin.
That sounds bad.
Let's see how that goes for him. So I have some reservations there. But yeah, forced hand, I'd lay the points on Philly. Of course, you would have liked 7 a little bit better here. I think the Eagles either trounce them, dismantle them. I said this the first time they played each other. I think they either trash them or they lose a close one. They trashed them that last time, not week 18, but the first time they faced each other. All right, what do you got for Bengals and Bills? Bills are 5-point favorites here at home.
I like the Bills. So far of the 3 games we talked about, this would be my most confident pick. I think that just Buffalo, they did not play a good game. They got past a pretty bad Dolphins team. They made the plays when they did. Josh Allen's got to limit the turnovers. The Ravens had, that was my most disappointing thing. The Ravens had them beat. Not only is it, I would say this, it's not that, if he sticks it over, they win. Even if he fumbles, they win. It's just if he doesn't fumble for a touchdown.
A 98-yard touchdown.
Like, the Bengals were not moving the ball, and they weren't. And now the offensive line, which was always a problem, is just getting worse and worse. I think Buffalo is going to be ready. I think they will answer the challenge. We know Cincinnati's got some pieces, but I think Buffalo is the more complete team. And I think eventually Cincinnati's going to get a little exposed. Baltimore did that. Baltimore just doesn't have the offensive weapons, and certainly Buffalo does.
Only other thing to me is that the only thing that I have some skepticism is Cincinnati just played Baltimore the week before. That's a weird spot to come into. Baltimore's defense, ever since Roquan Smith, had been elite, man. Like, really good defense. So,
can't argue with that. We shouldn't even be talking about this game. That's all.
Okay. And then, right. Yeah, I'm with you. And then last one, and then we're going to talk some DFS. I figured this would be a fun way to kick it off. We only got 4 games, so why not give our just kind of an overview of how we see these games. It's going to help from a DFS standpoint. Anyway, Cowboys, the one game that I just got fully wrong from a props perspective, I was pretty sharp across the board with all of these other games. Had a nice week in the props area. Felt good coming into Monday. Leonard Fournette wasn't used at all. They get their offensive line, the healthiest it's been all season, didn't make a difference. They just got shit on from top to bottom. Horrible performance. Goodbye, Tampa Bay. Dak Prescott looks far better than he has in most spots this season. Do you think they can hang with the Niners as 3.5-point dogs this week?
So this is my biggest amateur hour over here. If the Cowboys game was played before the Vikings game, I would have had them and had them pretty heavily. I like Dallas in that game, but I was so frustrated by Minnesota. Left Dallas off the card. That was just very frustrating. I like Dallas in this game, though. It feels like everyone, including me, have said that San Francisco is the best team. I think this is a really tough spot. We're going to find out. Brock Purdy has answered every call, and I like Brock Purdy, but I also think some of the stuff is getting out of control with him. Like, I want to see what happens against a good defense when he's got to make some plays. And you could say the same thing about Dak, no doubt about it, but I think this is going to be a really close game, and I hope the Niners win by 300. I hate the Cowboys, but I would take the points. I think Dallas found some things. Certainly, they played a non-competitive team, so we don't know how good they are. But I'm not a fan of Seattle either. So for me, this is going to be, the sack percentage, the pressure rates, some of the stuff Brock Purdy hasn't seen. And as good as he's managing the game, I still don't think that Brock Purdy's that good. I really don't. So we're going to find out on Saturday or Sunday.
He made some great plays, though, man.
But he made some great plays. He's also thrown some passes that should have been picked that just simply haven't been.
Yeah, that's true. You're right. Look, I don't think you're wrong. To not expect this game to be Dallas is a 3.5-point road dog. They're on the road as 3.5-point dog. That says a lot.
It does. And I think that when you look at, it's the Cowboys again, that comes with so much, but what do they have? Like, what are they missing exactly?
Yeah. It's really just, can Dak not turn the ball over? That's what it comes down to.
But if he doesn't, and it's a big if, there's no doubt, but if he doesn't, he's got every weapon. They've got all sorts of looks that they're gonna get to Purdy. I hope, like I said, I hope San Francisco, but if you're telling me one team, quote unquote, upsets, it's definitely this one for me.
My God, how bad is Tampa Bay?
Tampa Bay, again, this is why I'm frustrated. How did I not? Tampa Bay hasn't been good all year, as you pointed out, all year. They shouldn't have even been in the playoffs.
No, I thought they'd keep that game close. I really did. I did not expect a rout. I
wasn't surprised by the score. I was surprised. Is Leonard Fournette hurt, or did they just give up?
That's what I said. Like, the spot I liked the most was Leonard Fournette rushing yards. I thought he'd be really involved. They didn't use him at all in week 18. And then he was just not out there. Like, it was Rachaad White almost every single snap. That was really shocking. Like, I did not, at no point did I expect that to happen.
No, my showdown lineups I had the right Dallas combo. I just have Fournette everywhere. Yeah. Brady threw the ball 66 times. So what, come on.
He had 30 looks in week 16. And then it was like, nope, not going to use him, even when nothing was working. Anyway, happy to have you guys with us as always. Little intro there for you to kind of set the table here. Set the table. Now, Brandon, come on, man. The Eagles' schedule was exceptionally easy. Exceptionally easy. Exceptionally easy. And I am an Eagles fan. Anyone that could tell you that the Eagles' schedule was not easy is flat out lying to you. Look at the quarterbacks they faced. The quarterbacks that the Eagles faced this year, they had an easy schedule. That doesn't mean they're not a good team. They blew most of those teams out. They smoked most of those teams. Eagles had an easy schedule. That's not even up for debate. All right. They played 6 teams with winning records in the NFC East with winning records. Okay, dude. They faced Washington twice. They lost one of those. They faced Dallas twice, one without Hurts. They lost one of those. The other one, they faced Cooper Rush. And they faced the Giants. They faced the Giants backups. All right. They faced the Giants. Go look up the Eagles' schedule this season. Ben, it's not even up for debate. They didn't have a tough schedule at all.
Look at the schedule.
Yeah, look up their schedule. They did not have. Brandon, Minnesota sucks, bro. What are you talking about? Minnesota stinks.
Anyone that plays Arizona, by definition, it doesn't even matter who else you play.
Read the schedule. Read the schedule.
A pseudo bye week.
Read the schedule.
Detroit, Minnesota, Washington, Jacksonville, Arizona, Dallas, Pittsburgh, Houston, Washington, Indy, Green Bay, Tennessee, the Giants, the Bears, Dallas, the Saints, the Giants, and the Giants.
It's an easy schedule. And if you want to say they played Detroit in week 1, and Detroit was like 1-6 through their first 7 games or whatever. Come on. I'm not fired up at all. I'm just saying they didn't play. I'm just saying they didn't have a tough schedule.
I'll just say this. they drew the AFC South from the other side.
Yep. So they had Houston, they had Indy, they had Tennessee, who we know Tennessee's not good. They were a paper tiger, right? Like, no, I don't even know. I don't even know what to talk. Detroit sucked in the beginning of the season. They were outright terrible. The Titans are a bad football team. So if we're talking about winning records, yeah. All right, dude. These teams were not good. All right. Anyway, let's talk some divisional round football here. Hit that thumbs up if you haven't done so yet. Subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment down below too. If you, of course, are watching after the fact, we at the least try and read all of these, respond to these comments. And if you're listening in podcast form, leave it a rating, a review, subscribe to the pod, tell your friends about the show. All that stuff goes a really long way. We appreciate you guys for it. I know you've been with us all season, so much love. All right, let's talk about the quarterback position. You have, what an interesting slate. Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, Joe Burrow. Then we'll get down to some cheaper options. You know, the Josh Allen and Joe Burrow situation is really interesting. But if I had to pick two quarterbacks that I like the most this week, it's still going to be Mahomes and Jalen Hurts for me.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be wild. Like, you have seriously good options, it feels like, everywhere. Not just good quarterbacks, but good quarterbacks that can move. Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs, he will run more. We've seen it. Josh Allen can run. Jalen Hurts' game, in some ways, he's improved as a passer, but he's still an elite rushing quarterback. At one point in the Giants game, it felt like Daniel Jones was going to have legitimately 30 carries. They weren't even giving him a rest. And then you've got Burrow. This is tough, man, but I agree. If Jalen Hurts is all right, I think he's the best quarterback on the slate. That's where I would look amongst all of them. If I'm starting at the top, give me Jalen Hurts if I could only play one, but I also feel like I could play 6 and feel pretty good.
Patrick Mahomes, to me, though, against Jacksonville's 30th ranked passing defense, is just really appealing at home. Go ahead.
At what point do we start? And this is a tough question, and it almost is related to lofty thoughts on running your quarterback naked. At what point do we bump down Patrick Mahomes because building a stack with Kansas City is impossible?
I've been saying this for months.
I know, yeah. But it's.
I hear you. I hear you, but they have a 31-point implied total against the Jags team that, narrowly escaped what should have been a clear loss. Jags secondary is not very good. Pass protection for Kansas City is solid. You're right, though. I mean, or Mahomes, Kelsey. I mean, you look at Juju recently. Again, like, to your point, this is the problem. Juju's had what? I don't know, 4, 3, and 2 targets over his last. I'm speaking of memory, but it's something like super low volume over the last 3 weeks. And then McCall Hardman comes out and starts getting more work. Or one day it's Watson, which you don't expect that to be the case. McCall Hardman shouldn't be there. He's still, that injury isn't responding the way he expected it to be. And then you have Kelsey. I mean, yeah, it's tough, but I think you see a lot of Kelsey in this game. I still love Mahomes here in this spot. And the only caveat to that argument, to the argument that I've made as well, is with Jalen Hurts, it's like if you're playing Hurts, you have 2 top guys, AJ Brown, Devonta Smith, right? And then you have Dallas Goedert, who's, reasonably priced at tight end. Outside of Travis Kelsey, everybody's cheaper, but then you got to factor in Jerick McKinnon too. Yeah,
that's the problem. It's an awkward build. Tony is a player that they have been getting involved. It's amazing. We've named everyone. The one guy it's not going to be is MVS, because I try that every week and it never works. But I want to be clear. I'm not saying don't go to Mahomes, because I think there's a lot of merit to going to Mahomes and just saying, I'm going to guess. I am simply going to take Mahomes and Kelsey and then guess. Mahomes, Kelsey, McKinnon's going to be the obvious choice. But man, it's really tough. It's really difficult to know what you're going to get. Even with a team total that high, there are so many weapons that you can look to. Whereas with the Eagles, it's almost a given that if Hurts gets there, and particularly through the air, who it's going to be. It's just the rushing upside you got to worry about.
Exactly. Yeah, I think when you're talking about the other receivers in here, or the other quarterbacks, you still have other options. Like Trevor Lawrence, I don't think they come out here and win this game, but Kansas City has allowed a boatload of passing touchdowns this season, an absolute shit ton of passing touchdowns. They only allow 6.1 yards per attempt. So, I think sometimes those numbers can be a little bit skewed, but Lawrence is going to have to throw in this game. And you do have, again, Kirk, Ingram, Zay Jones. There are plenty of weapons here. Travis Etienne isn't really used all that efficiently or often in the passing game either. So what do you, at this stage of the game, like you're getting a pretty discounted quarterback in a game with a 53-point total in some spots. He would be my favorite, 6K and below quarterback for this week.
Yeah. I mean, he had a perfect, when you throw 4 interceptions, that you couldn't ask for a better start. I know that sounds dumb, but 47 attempts after, like, you're in such a good game script in these playoff games. Like, that's almost where you want to be. And I don't think he's going to do that, but I do expect them to be trailing. The thing you're balancing, though, is how good, I guess what my question, I'll throw it to you. How much do you think the Eagles, they're going to be prepared for Daniel Jones running, but do you think that they can stop it? Because if they can limit that, it's clearly Lawrence. If they can, I take Daniel Jones is giving you 10 points on the ground every week.
Yeah, I'm not convinced you're going to see the same rushing production from Daniel Jones that you did against Minnesota. I'm just trying to temper expectations here, and maybe you can help put it into perspective a little bit too. The Minnesota defense is like, they're terrible.
Yes, they're
horrible.
quite bad.
What?
Quite bad, that's all.
Yeah,
horrible.
Really, really bad defense for Minnesota. So, I mean, you're talking about a Minnesota defense that all season long got absolutely gashed. And now you face a Philly team that's getting healthy defensively. I mean, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson being back is a huge deal in the secondary. You don't have to overcompensate back there anymore. From top to bottom, like, they have an elite pass rush. What do they have? 4 guys this season or something? Yep. Just crazy numbers. If this Giants offensive line doesn't hold up, you might see Daniel Jones running for his life. It's possible, but like, is that enough to get it done in the passing game? Maybe it is. Maybe you're right. Maybe Daniel Jones, and plus this total was bet up from 46 to 48 too. So there is that. Lawrence and Daniel Jones, both entirely viable. Do you like Brock Purdy against Dallas?
I don't. I was, I'd say, certainly wrong about Purdy last week, but I thought McCaffrey scored. Instead, Purdy sneaks it in. He made some plays, but Seattle's defense is atrocious too. Like, I expect Dallas to do some things, and you're not getting a huge discount in price. We'll look at the tools here. We'll look at the ownership, many reasons why you want to get behind the paywall. If Purdy is even remotely as popular as these other guys, I think I would have him last of the 8 quarterbacks.
Where do you put Josh Allen and Joe Burrow into the mix?
I don't like Burrow. It's not because he's not a great player. It's just because I think you can make a reasonable case, and you could do this maybe in wild card weekend, that no quarterback is really going to break you with the rushing upside. I find it hard to believe that between Allen, Hurts, Daniel Jones, and Mahomes to a lesser extent, that somebody isn't going to have 75 yards rushing and a touchdown. And it's just really hard. That's 3 touchdowns for Burrow extra. And I just find it hard to believe that he can make up for that in Buffalo. That's a tall task for me.
Top options from mid-tier down to the low tier. If you had to rank them, Burrow, Lawrence, Jones, and Brock Purdy.
What about Dak?
What
about Dak? Because he's in there.
Oh, sorry. Dak as well. Yeah.
I would go Lawrence, Jones, Dak, Burrow, Purdy.
Lawrence. Okay. So Burrow's second to last in that range.
Yeah, I don't like Burrow at all. I think that if I'm going to get to his type of, I know he's in kind of a pseudo dead range. It's not a simple go get Hurts. You're talking about $1,100 difference. But I don't like that. May I have some Cincinnati stacks? I'm going to build a lot of teams, so I'm sure I will. but that is not my favorite build by a long shot. I'd rather go down or up from Burrow.
All right, let's talk about running backs. Before we do, though, Ben, how about Prize Picks giving out a $100 first match deposit bonus and saying on top of that, we're all about partnering up with Stokastic to give a free month of Stokastic Plus Platinum, $120 value, every single tool on the site for every single sport. Sounds like a good deal.
It is a good deal. These deals where, sometimes, truth be told, we have a deal and it's very targeted. Like if you like this one thing, sign up for this, and people do because they like that one thing. What Prize Picks has kind of done, it's the best of both worlds. You like to do props. You like to go over under, stuff like that. Boom. If you like to play DFS, you're getting a month of all the tools. That is going to apply to so many different things, all of those things on the site. So I know a lot of people have taken advantage of this. Still there. Link in the description of the video. Really cool stuff from Prize Picks. Shout out to them. Yeah, man.
Listen, links in the description and in chat, as Ben pointed out. All you're doing is clicking that link, signing up, putting 10 or whatever if you want the full $100 deposit bonus, you put $100 in. You're getting that deposit bonus. You're playing on an awesome site where you're just building lineups with props. There's no juice on either side, just the over, the under. Mix as many sports as you want. If you hit 5 of 5, you 10x. Now you can do 6 of 6, 25x. And unlike these other books where it's like, hey, great, you hit 4 of 5 in your parlay, you return 0 money. Here, you hit 4 of 5, you're still 2xing. You still make money back on hitting 3 of 5. You can sustain a bankroll. You can win big money. It's available in all of the states where legal betting isn't. So that scratches that itch for all of you guys looking for it. And you're getting all of our tools, including our brand new lineup generator for NFL and for NBA, our ownership, top stacks, boom bust tool, every single sport, PGA, NFL, NBA, you name it. You're getting that free. $120 value across the board, everything, including access to our premium Discord. Take advantage of it if you haven't done so yet. We'd love to see you come over, join the community, win some money with these tools, and win some money over on Prize Picks, where you can use all of our tools for those player props as well. All right, running backs. Not a crazy one this week because you have McCaffrey up there at the top. And then once you get past Christian McCaffrey, the price tier falls pretty substantially. And I'll be honest with you, man, I'm not huge on Barkley this week. Maybe you are. Maybe you can convince me otherwise. I'm not huge on Joe Mixon. It's a weird position. Like, I like McCaffrey. I think they're going to have to use him a lot here, especially in a more competitive game than we saw last week. I'll go back to the well with Miles Sanders in this spot at sub 6K, 5,700. But it's a pretty weak position, even for 4 games. Usually, you have more options when you have a lot of, 8 good teams on the slate. There's not a ton here that I'm absolutely, salivating over.
No, I'm not either. I guess for me, it's just you have really talented backs. You just have really talented defenses to go along with them. And some of what we saw in the wild card round didn't make a lot of sense. And I guess what I'm referring to is more ETN. They trailed from start to finish. He had 1 target and still 20 carries. It's just like such an odd thing. It seemed like the type of game where I could have looked at and said, oh, yeah, he had 9 targets and 9 carries because they were down by so much. McCaffrey makes a lot of sense. I think Tony Pollard's probably the most interesting guy. 18 total touches. He's got a tough situation against San Francisco's defense, but they're not invincible, and he's going to get his opportunities. So I'll put McCaffrey 1. And then I think you could make an argument that a guy like McKinnon should be 2.
You could make that argument. You're 8.5 point favorites. And that's why I mentioned Sanders too, right? Like 7.5 point favorites with ETN. That was I hammered the ETN prop last week. Loved that. And I'm thinking the over rushing yards. And I'm thinking, because we know the Chargers run defense stinks. And that's why I was so furious when Peterson refused to run the ball early on when the game was still in reach. Obviously, they came back and won it, but at 27-0, most people aren't saying the game is in reach. And then what happens? Come out in the second half, you start running the ball to this guy, and he's gashing them. I don't know if that formula plays the same this week against Kansas City. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm completely wrong. But he just doesn't get a lot of work in the passing game. That's really, really concerning to me. It's confounding. Like since week 8, he doesn't have more than 3 targets in a game, Ben. He doesn't have more than 3 targets in a game since week 8.
Stuff like this is maybe one of the hardest things that I struggle with, which is what is the reality and what do I think the reality should be? Because to me, Travis Etienne is a great pass catcher. He should be in the Kamara Eckler bucket. You could like Trevor Lawrence used to go to him early and often at Clemson. I don't get it, but the reality is you just referenced, we're probably going to have to project him for like 3 targets, maybe a couple more, but I worry about that. And against the Chiefs, you know, they're not a great run defense, but they're not, the Chargers are the worst run defense. It doesn't get worse than them. So it's obviously a tougher matchup this time around.
What do you make of some of these? What do you make of Mixon? This spot, that run blocking is so bad there. I mean, let's be completely realistic about this. Joe Mixon on the season finishes with 853 yards, okay, sub 4 yards per attempt. He's involved in the passing game, which is nice, but he's had what? 1 slate breaking game all season. That's it. 1. He had that massive game against Carolina. You get outside of that, Joe Mixon has been pedestrian to slightly above average from a fantasy perspective throughout the year.
Yeah, he gets the work, but it's really inefficient. Yeah, I know he had 9 touchdowns, but he had 5 in one game. So throw that out and you're not looking too hot here. I don't worry about game script. I don't worry about anything like that. I think we know what we're going to get, which is, 10 to 15 carries, 3 to 8 targets, a healthy workload. I'm just not sure what it's going to produce. So I'm kind of indifferent to Mixon. I don't mind getting to some. I'm not high on the Bengals to begin with. Do you think, let me ask you this, because we kind of glossed over it. Do you think there'll be a significant discount in ownership from Saquon to McCaffrey? Because it seems like everyone from chat to us is saying we like McCaffrey, Saquon, not really. Maybe he's the move in tournaments. Like no one seems to want to go to him.
What's he priced at?
He's only $100 less than McCaffrey. It's a clear pivot.
I mean, if they keep this game close, it's likely going to be because of Saquon Barkley, right?
Or Daniel Jones. But I think that I'd be pretty surprised if the Eagles aren't able to scheme to stop what Minnesota couldn't stop with his ground game.
What's the owner? Their ownership's pretty close, though.
Then it's a no-brainer for me. It's McCaffrey.
Right. I mean, McCaffrey's just so dynamic on a better team. I prefer McCaffrey. If the ownership here spaces out a little bit more, then I think Saquon Barkley would be the guy that I'd be looking towards. The cheap guy, there's not a lot here. I mean, how confident are you in Dallas running backs in a split backfield against the San Francisco 49ers?
I mean, I'm not confident in them, but what I like about them is particularly Pollard. I still think he's got massive ceiling. I worry more about his floor because I definitely think there's scenarios where the Niners defense causes significant problems for them. But 15 carries and a couple targets was pretty encouraging. He's an electric playmaker. I don't worry about anything like that. And I mean, you have a pivot off McKinnon. You could go to Sanders. I have no problem with him either. They kind of fit the same mold in some iterations, but I'm okay with a guy like Pollard, even in a tough matchup.
Give me some, yeah. You need the volume to be right.
The volume will be there. I don't see how it's not.
Yeah, it's got to be right.
Yeah.
I guess it has to be. I guess there's really no way that they can't go to these guys. Now, of course, both Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott saw 28 combined carries. They were pretty dismal in that game. They weren't necessarily needed though, because Dak Prescott was fantastic last week. Do you think Pacheco is unplayable right now? Or is there a spot here where if people are going to the backfield for the Kansas City Chiefs, they all kind of gravitate to Jerick McKinnon? Well, we have Pacheco with more ownership than McKinnon right now, which seems insane. There's no way that stands. I can't imagine.
No, it's not going to.
At a $500 difference that McKinnon isn't exponentially higher on, or at least higher owned than Isaiah Pacheco, when McKinnon is the type of guy that can have that massive game through the air.
Yeah, again, it's early in the week. Some of the stuff's going to update. That's just, unless I'm missing something, I don't see how that would be possible. The good thing about Pacheco is if for some reason he has a big game, he's killing a lot of, can they coexist? Sure. But most likely if Pacheco has a true big game, the Chiefs stacks are in trouble because he's going to isolate his points. So I like that concept with it. But I almost feel like if you think that's possible, just don't play the other Chiefs. And that's your leverage within itself. You don't necessarily need to play him.
What do you make of the Eagles backfield then?
I'm fine with it. I mean, Miles Sanders should get to work. It's a fine matchup. They should be playing from ahead. I don't really worry about it. I mean, his risk is just Jalen Hurts is back and he could get, he's a red zone threat. He's a running threat as well. But for everything you sacrifice there, the offense is so much more efficient. It's a boost to touchdown equity. It's a boost just to the team. It's a boost to game script. So you have to take both. And the Giants defense, 5.2 yards allowed per rush attempt. That's down there with the Chargers. That's awful. So I like Sanders.
When you have to account for both Jalen Hurts and Miles Sanders in the backfield, it's going to open up a lot of running lanes. And we've seen that happen all season long. This is definitely, Miles Sanders is always a volatile option because Nick Sirianni, his play calling can be egregious from time to time. Like he'll come out as he did against Chicago and just throw 100 times with blatant disregard for the fact that the run game would be effective when Jalen Hurts clearly isn't playing his best. But if Miles Sanders, who is right now the 5th highest projected owned running back, comes out and gets a heavy workload in the playoffs, I think you're looking at a very, very appealing spot there. Because really, who would you rather have? Sanders, Singletary, Cook, Ezekiel Elliott? Like, once you get into that range, you're essentially just throwing darts with a lot of these guys.
Yeah, you have timeshares. You've got Singletary and Cook is super difficult. Singletary was still on the field for more snaps. He didn't do anything. Cook scored. Didn't really even get there, though. I struggle with all these guys. Like, I don't think you're going to like Eli Mitchell had the old 9 carries for 2 yards. Nice job. There's nothing down here, is there?
I don't think there is, unless you think that James Cook maybe becomes the guy.
I don't think that's going to happen.
I don't. I think it's McKinnon, it's Sanders. Maybe you sprinkle in some Pacheco in the event that they're playing with the lead and they take their foot off the gas, but they're still one of the more pass-heavy offenses in the league, right? I mean, I think it's those are probably the guys that I would look to the most.
Yeah, I mean, for running back, I'm not going to get crazy. Like starting with Miles Sanders and up to McCaffrey, you've got a lot of options. I'm going to have to pay for 2 of them. Like, I don't anticipate trying to get 3. I'll just take my 2 running backs, mix and match, and call it a day because I don't see the ability to punt at running back.
Do you think this leads you into a scenario, though, where you're going to have at least one of McCaffrey and Barkley in all of your lineups? Or could you see yourself getting away from that and rolling the dice?
No, I'd be more prone to roll the dice because if you told me, when you frame it like that, my first thought is yeah. But if you also told me, are you comfortable with having 2 of Mixon, Etienne, Pollard, McKinnon, or Sanders? I'd say yeah. That's no
why
problem.
not, right?
Yeah, why
that's
not?
It's a good way to look at it. Talk about wide receivers here. Also, it's Wednesday. You know what that means? That it's the best time to take advantage of the 5 free days. The best time. It used to be 3. We said, hey, listen, guys, we can't do 3 days. This is true. This is actually what happened. We can't do 3 free days for NFL. You do that on a Tuesday show with Ben and myself, you get Thursday night football. That's it. You do it on a Wednesday, you get Thursday. That's it. You're not giving yourself anything. You do it on a Wednesday, you're getting Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, which means you're getting all of our NFL tools, entirely free for the first 5 days. There are no strings attached here. It is entirely free. If you don't like it, you can bounce after that. Hopefully you do and win some money and stick around. But you're getting Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Familiarize yourself with the tools, the lineup generator, which now we got the amazing new feature for Showdown where you can legitimately just set your own game script predictions and it'll spit lineups out. Like, for example, we had a question the other day and like, should I run an onslaught for Dallas? If you thought that Dallas was going to come out there and shit on Tampa, you could set it the way that you want for that type of game script, for that game flow. And it would give you lineups like that. And you can pick the ones that you like the best. It gives you ownership projections. It gives you the contrarian score, leverage, all of that stuff. That's just one feature though. You have the boom bust tool, the top stack tool. I know that's Ben's favorite. Player projections, ownership, all of the projected stats. So use it today. Links in the description and in chat. 5 free days. Familiarize yourself with the tools. Get used to them. Start building lineups. Learn these tools. So then on Saturday and Sunday, you know how to use all of them. You can build the best lineups. You can use the lineup builder, the generator, all of these tools to start winning money and take advantage of all of our showdown content because there's going to be massive showdown slates. 5 free days on a Wednesday, Ben. There's literally no better day to take advantage of it this week than a Wednesday where you get every game and you set yourself up early in the week.
No better time. Like, to me, and some people have different preferences, the divisional round of the NFL playoffs is as good as it gets. Like, you still have a lot of teams. You got 4 games, amazing slates. Like, if you were going to take advantage, to set yourself up for even next year, like, what a week to hop in and test out the tools. Like, it doesn't get better than this slate.
No doubt. Links in the description. Mike, throw it in chat one more time. We'd love to have you come over and check these tools out. 5 free days. That's it. Simple as that. Boom. Get in, get all of the tools for every single week. Yeah, Andy said the generator rocks for basketball as well. It does. It's awesome.
It's when they get that, and I'll give people a little like, we're going to get that for more sports. I can't wait for PGA because I love it, but basketball's not my favorite sport. It's going to be a game changer.
It's going to be awesome. Yeah. You get the whole weekend. You get all the tools leading up to it and throughout the weekend. So we'll see you guys over there. All right. Wide receivers. Jamar Chase and T. Higgins finally seeing a good amount of separation in salary. The first time we've seen that in a while, it feels like. You have Chase, Diggs, A.J. Brown, Lamb, and Devonta Smith at the top, who really had a massive second half of the season, whether it was Minshew or Jalen Hurts under center. How do you prioritize these 5 guys up top, all sub 7K, none of them above 8K? Like I said, there are no crazy price points this week for obvious reasons.
Yeah, I mean, with only 4 games, normally I talk about like, oh, isolated pricing. There's a $700 gap. Chase to Diggs, 100. Diggs to Brown, 100. Brown to Lamb, 300. Lamb to Smith, 100. Like, what? You're talking $600 for 5 guys. Really, really difficult. The good thing, disperses ownership. Like, you're talking about pivots within salary ranges when you build. Some of this is going to be attachments to your stack. I think on the surface, for me, Stephon Diggs, who, all right, when the game started, I don't know how intently you were watching, but I was like, all right, Diggs might get legitimately 60. He had 20 points in the first quarter and he finished with 21.
I know.
Bizarre. Like, now Gabe Davis stepped up. You called him on Sunday. Props to you. But to me, Diggs is still the guy. His price didn't move. Him and Brown are the guys that jump off the page immediately for me.
A.J. Brown in this spot is extraordinarily appealing. I mean, his receiving yards prop right now is 68.5, Ben. Seems lower than you would have expected, right?
They always do, though. Like,
yeah, no doubt. I thought it was a little interesting thing to point out there. But 7,600, as much as I love Devonta Smith, the fact that these guys are only separated by $400, I think A.J. Brown is the guy here. Just how good he is after the catch, how good he is in contested catches. To give credit to Smith for as skinny as that dude is, he can come up over top of multiple defenders and bring down both. But A.J. Brown here at 7,600 is fantastic. Jamar Chase, though, does this matchup against Buffalo concern you, or do you just see it being another high volume opportunity for him to get as much, targets as possible?
Both. I don't like the matchup. Jamar Chase, he's an elite player and Burrow doesn't care. Like, he's got 12 or more targets in 5 straight games. The guy is going to get work. It doesn't matter what you try to do. They're going to give him opportunities. And the way the Bengals are constructed, it's not like you can just, T. Higgins, Boyd, Mixon. They've got other weapons. Now, can the protection hold up? I have no idea. And I do worry about that. Not my preferred target, but Jamar Chase is clearly in the bucket of always playable. All formats, all matchups.
Do you like Debo against San Fran? Or I'm sorry, CeeDee Lamb.
Oh, yes. The thing that was interesting about CeeDee Lamb, it felt, and maybe this is just me thinking about the game that I watched, I thought he had a huge game against Tampa. It seemed like he did. And then I looked at what he actually did. He had 6 targets. And he
didn't even have a catch until late in the second half?
Yeah. And then he started to get going, but it felt like he was more involved than he really was. I wish he was a little cheaper. I don't think it's a perfect comparison for obvious reasons. He reminds me a little of Tyreek last week in the sense that he almost doesn't belong where he's priced. I think it's a tough sell, but you always have interest there because I don't think the Cowboys are going to get a lot of love against San Francisco's defense. And it's still a team I expect to move the ball.
The mid-range here is so intriguing to me. It falls off a cliff after Devonta Smith, right? You come down to you literally drop $1,200 to the next receiver. You're dropping $1,200 to the next receiver. That's Christian Kirk against Kansas City. In all likelihood, they're going to have to throw a lot in this game. That's him. You have Debo coming off a huge game. How explosive did he look against Seattle, too? You called that, too. I was a little hesitant on Debo. You called that. You're talking about hey, look at this price point. He was so explosive in that game.
He is unbelievable. He's my favorite player in the NFL, bar none. I love Debo. I'm going to speak to both sides of it, though. You saw incredible. He had a monster performance, and you needed to have him last week. He scored on a 74-yard touchdown, and I just want to take that play. You get 1 point for a reception. You get 7.4 for the yardage. So we're at 8.4. He scored 14.4, and he got the bonus because of it. 17.4 on one play. I mean, I know he kind of works like that. You take that out, he has a pedestrian game.
That's kind of it's always a catch-22 with Debo because he either doesn't get there or even remotely close, or he has these insane run after the catch type of plays or rushing plays where you go, yeah, should have seen that coming. But really, you can't see it coming, right? It's just you're running that risk. He was targeted 9 times in that spot, which was, I thought, pretty interesting, just given that you had seen George Kittle kind of leading the way in that respect, even after in the 2 weeks that Debo Samuel had returned. But last week, Debo had a 30% target share.
Listen, it's true. And friend of the show, Josh, just said that if you start taking away the guy's best play, you're going to have a lot of that. And that is very true. With a guy like Debo, though, it does feel like he needs to do that, and he can because he's an electric player. But more and more, when those guys are popular, I like to roll the dice because if they don't have that explosive play, a lot of times they don't get there on pure volume. And in an offense,
what are we
like
having that for ownership? 20%? Okay.
Yeah, which to me is fine. If he surges, I would rather have Christian. I think Christian Kirk beats him the majority of the time. It's just when Debo does outscore him, it's probably about 20.
Because he has those 2 massive plays, yeah.
Because he's, if you told me who's more likely to get 35, Kirk or Debo, I think it's clearly Debo. And if you told me who's more likely to get 8, I think it's clearly Debo.
Clearly Debo Samuel, yeah. There's a lot here in this range, though. I mean, Juju's 5,100. I understand that he hasn't been, heavily used in the most recent few weeks, but don't you kind of just have to throw that out the window with the Kansas City Chiefs? Their usage has been all over the map all season long. They've had a carousel of players being in and out, whether it's McCall Hardman, Kadarius Toney, whether it's Marquez Valdez-Scantling being scarcely used and then getting involved again, whether it's Juju being out and then coming back and then limited use because he's coming off a concussion. There's just no real answer here. But Juju at 5,100 in a game where his team has a 31-point implied total against the 30th ranked pass defense. Yeah, I'm definitely willing to take some shots there. I'm not surprised whatsoever that our ownerships have the field getting to him about 24% of the time right now.
We got plenty. I mean, it's early, but I anticipate having 4 receivers in my lineups. You got a lot of dude. We haven't even talked about, you mentioned Juju, Ayuk, Gabe Davis's price went down. Okay. Slayton, Zay Jones, Boyd, Tony, like these guys this is where you're going to pay down. This is why paying up at running back is so easy.
It's super easy. I could look at this and you already mentioned Kirk. Higgins is 5,800. I think now that you're getting, this is what's really intriguing to me is now that you're getting Higgins at this price point, we have him projected at just bottomed out ownership right now. Mm-hmm. He's $2,000 cheaper than Jamar Chase, right? Is it a good matchup on paper? No, of course not. But the Bills defense has had some of these games, and I'm just kind of speaking anecdotally here, but we've seen some of these games where they just haven't really shown up. And last game, of course, there was a lot of different circumstances that played into that. But I think Higgins is definitely one of these guys that you could at least look at and say, 5,800, we have him at 7% ownership right now in a game that could soar over the total. What if Higgins really comes in at 7%? And that's what we have him projected for on Saturday morning.
I mean, that'll change some things. We'll be doing shows and you'll be seeing me saying, I want to get over. I don't think that's going to be the case. But if it is, yeah, I mean, listen, T. Higgins is he's when he's healthy, and you always wish he's healthy, but most of his injuries seem to be concussions, which, you don't really play questionable. The guy's a monster. Like, I absolutely am fine with that. We'll have to see the weather in Buffalo, but like you could make a case for playing 3 receivers, like starting with Kirk on a lineup if you wanted to jam everywhere else.
Yeah, you could.
Like, say you wanted, I'm not saying to do this, but say you wanted Mahomes and Kelsey. So like, I want the elite combo and I want CMC and like Saquon. You could do that and probably triple punt wide receiver and make it work.
You absolutely could. You have Zay Jones, who's
I'll do that.
What's that?
I said, maybe I'll do that.
It might be worth it. Zay Jones is cheap. Gabe Davis is 4,800. Even if you wanted to go Kelsey with Mahomes and you say, what, screw it, I'll throw MVS into some of those lineups. He's $3,800, right? Again, highest implied total on the slate. Can MVS get it? Can he give us one game? It's entirely possible. He's going to be out there, 60% of snaps. What about guys? Okay, here's what I want to close out the wide receiver position with. 2 questions. Answer them in whatever order you'd like. One, and John said KC doesn't let their foot off the gas. Dude, after last week, you'd be crazy to, right? After what Jacksonville did to the Chargers, you'd be crazy to. Of course, that doesn't make it any less likely for them to do one thing or the other. Again, Kansas City is going to continue to throw that's how they score points. Like, sure, they'll run the football a little bit, but if they are surgically picking apart Jacksonville's secondary, you think they're going to go, let's go away from what's working? Of course not. Why would you do that? But Justin said they always let their foot off the gas. What I'm saying though is like the way that you play in a game like this, you would think that you would want to continue to score as many points as possible in a divisional game, in a game that gets you to the championship if you win.
Yeah, again, I mean, it's a blessing and a curse with Kansas City in particular. You have so many different price points for so many different weapons. You just don't know where they're going.
All right. And by the way, I'm with all of you guys in chat. The Kansas City is super frustrating. They've driven me nuts all season long. But with 4 games and some really cheap receivers, I'm probably going to have to change the way I look at things a little bit.
Yeah.
These are the 2 questions I have for you. One, what do you do with receivers for the New York Giants? Because they're all cheap, but it is, a talented Eagles secondary mostly healthy. And then what do you do with Marvin Jones at 3,600? I throw that out there because real cheap wide receivers, there's just not a lot there.
So last week, it felt like I hate to say need, but when I was building, I was running into Hodgins, Slayton, or Richie James on a lot of lineups because I couldn't find value. I needed to get them. I don't think that's the case this week, at least from what I've seen. So I'm not as apt to go to the Giants unless I'm playing Daniel Jones and I think they can move the ball. It's not just salary relief. Second question, I think Marvin Jones is totally reasonable. He had 6 targets, obviously found the end zone, but I'm going to throw in Michael Gallup right there at 38. I loved what he did. He had 6 targets as well. He scored as well. And we saw that, San Francisco, again, they've got a good defense, but CeeDee Lamb's going to generate a lot of interest. You've got Schultz had a huge game. I think that Michael Gallup's going to get real opportunities.
That's an interesting one.
Gallup's a player, man. When he's healthy, again, I'm a big fan of him, and he's sub 4K.
Tight end's got a lot here as well. Not a lot, but I'd say there's probably so I have 1, 2, 3, 4. I have like five tight ends that I'd be okay with. 5 of them. Okay. Last thing, by the way, just to throw this out there for you guys, all the no-brainer opportunities that we have. If you're sitting here and Prize Picks isn't available in your state, you wanted the free month. If you have literally $10 and 2 minutes of time, use the link in the description or in chat. BetMGM has amazing offers right now, especially since we partnered with them. Ben's mentioned a bunch. This is going away. We talked about this the other day, off air, of course, in a meeting. 2 free months of Stokastic Plus Platinum, $240 value. All of our tools, not just for football, every single sport available to you is $10. All you need, follow the directions when you click the link. You need 2 minutes of time. You need $10. If you're someone that's watching our Stokastic Hall of Fame segments and going, dude, I want to get up there, but I'm grinding. I'm playing small stakes. I can't pay $120 a month for all of the tools right now. You don't have to. $10 and 10 minutes of your time, or 2 minutes of your time, legitimately all you need. You place a bet. After it settles, win or lose, you're getting in there. All of our content, all of our Discord, all of our tools across the board, every sport. And the reason is, if you wonder why we do this, it's because we want you to check the tools out. We think you'll stick around. We think you will win money. Give yourself a chance to start playing higher stakes, increase your stakes, build your bankroll, and do it all for $10 across 2 months. You're getting $230 off the top right there to check out our tools. Join the family, take advantage of all of that. And in doing so, get your own self up there on the Hall of Fame, rocking that Stokastic avatar. No better way to do it. And of course, call 1-800-GAMBLER if you or anybody you know has a gambling problem. You also should be 21 years or older if you want to gamble. All right, Ben.
Yes.
Tight ends. Travis Kelce, clear top option here. Any disagreements?
No, it's simply, are you going to allocate thousands of dollars extra to a position? Simple as that. If you are, go get Travis Kelce.
What about the mid-range though? Because, and I'm with you. I love Travis Kelce in this spot. Of course, it's been a weird season. The ball gets spread around so much in Kansas City, but Kelce in this particular matchup is hard not to love, especially given what you pointed out earlier. I think that's a salient point. You can pay down at wide receiver.
Yes.
And you can do so by stacking this game pretty comfortably, whether it's Kirk or Zay, or even if you're throwing MVS in there as well. There's a lot of different ways you can do it. Juju Smith-Schuster's 5,100. There's a lot of ways you can go cheap here and still get Mahomes and Kelce. But at the mid-tier, Dallas Goedert against the Giants, I think, is more than a reasonable option here. I know that they have a lot of different weapons on this team, but Dallas Goedert at 4,500, still one of the best pass-catching tight ends in the league. Evan Ingram coming off another big game in likely a pass-heavy game script for Jacksonville. Dalton Schultz coming off a 2-touchdown performance. Dawson Knox against Cincinnati. He's 3,800. I really don't think there is much of a need to go to Bellinger and Hurst. And I don't even know how confident I feel in George Kittle this week against Dallas. I really like this 4K range quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very interesting dynamic because normally we're talking salary relief. Chad just mentioned, Tony brought up a good point. You can't pay for Kelsey with the alpha wide receivers at the same price. I agree with that to an extent. I'd say this, though. If you don't like those alpha wide receivers and it's a deep pool, you can pay for Kelsey because the difference in what he can do against the mid-range tight ends could be way more than the difference between Chase and Diggs versus like Higgins and Kirk range. And that's how you justify it. So to me, Evan Ingram's the obvious play. He had 11 more targets. He's playing out of his mind. Everything checks out with the game script. Everyone else, I'm kind of just like indifferent to. Schultz, Goddard, Dawson Knox. No problem with any of these guys. I don't anticipate punting with like a Bellinger. There's just too much talent at tight ends. Do you think, let me ask you this though. George Kittle finally had that non-2 touchdown game and he busted completely. Any interest in just buying low? I don't think anyone's going to do that.
Of course I do. It's just the same thing with everyone in San Francisco. There's still a low passing volume offense. Like they still don't throw the ball a lot. You absolutely are dependent on efficiency here. You need efficiency. Kittle had 2 touchdowns in week 18 against Arizona. He finished with 19 fantasy points, right? He scored the week prior. He had 12 fantasy points. He had that big game against Washington, but that was on 8 targets with 2 scores. 5 targets against Seattle. He had 25 fantasy points, 2 touchdowns, but that's 5 targets. Understandably, he has had the highest target share on this team since Brock Purdy took over, but target share can be misleading if you're looking at that and not just raw targets either. So I actually think, honestly, I think Deebo Samuel, is very similar to George Kittle at just different positions.
I don't disagree with that at all. And again, that's where you're always balancing, being different in tournaments versus, the ceiling, floor, all those dynamics. And that's what the tools help to do. I think for me, it's pretty simple. I like Ingram. I like Kelsey. I'd be fine with Schultz or Goddard.
What about the notion of playing Kelsey and Ingram in the same lineup with the game stack? I kind of like that. You
can do that. I had actually a lot of success on Saturday. I was able to get Everett and Ingram together. That's nice. That really helped. So yeah, I think on these slates, you can definitely do that.
The most success I think I've had this year when it comes to some of these shorter slates is double stacking tight ends instead of paying down for some of these cheap wide receivers where you're hoping for 3 or 4 targets.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, the shorter slates, raw points come into play, obviously a lot more. It's just sometimes getting like 19 from a guy that's 8. It's more on a 2-game slate than a 4-game slate, but that dynamic can work. And I'm going to definitely explore double tight end builds.
You had a question you posed in chat. Well, you wanted to ask. What was this question you wanted to ask?
He didn't want to take the question. I was on a call this morning and we got talking about some things and I wanted to know, and I've asked this before probably to you and some other people. I wanted to know if you thought, or our friend in chat, Mr. Katz, thought that 10 UFC fighters, if they could beat one full-grown silverback gorilla in the octagon. I like the way this guy's mind works. I was just interested in what he would say to that.
You do, huh?
Yeah, I do. I'm fascinated by people.
We talked about this in California for a long while.
We did, and it came back up today, and I just wanted to know what he thought if 10 UFC fighters in the octagon against a full-grown silverback gorilla could handle that, or if
I still think it's the gorilla.
Everyone thinks, most people, I shouldn't say everyone, most people do think it's in fact the gorilla.
What do you think it is?
So I respect people, certain people. Everyone I talk to says that the gorilla, it's just there's, they get angrier and they can do superhuman things because they are in fact not human. I thought that it would be the UFC fighters, but I seem to be on more of an island. See, look at chat.
You want to know my reason for this? And I like these questions. Is because the damage that you could inflict on one of these gorillas is
make them angrier.
It's going to make them angrier. And it's just not the same. Like one shot from a silverback gorilla to a human, no matter how big, probably takes them out, right? Or at least weakens them significantly. Also, if you have 10 UFC fighters, you can't all just attack at the same time if you're without weapons, if it's just bare-fisted combat. So it's not really 10-on-1. It's like it's like in those movies, where you have the whoever the actor may be, and he seems unimposing and quiet, and like a gang of dudes comes up, and then one of them goes after him and he fucks him up. And then the next one comes after him and he does the same. And then like the sixth guy by that point just runs away. You know the scene I'm talking about, right?
Of course. Like I always complain, like in the Ninja Turtles, there's one turtle, there's 75 members of the Foot, and they take on the turtle one by one instead of just
right.
You got to go together.
You have to, but how wouldn't it just be one of these where he rips everybody off?
10 people.
All right. So then what would your method of attack be?
So this is some smart people I've talked to about this have said this, and I agree. The problem with the question, a couple people would have to sacrifice themselves. Like you would.
People would die for sure. There's no question.
Yeah, but I just mean the first couple would have to go in and probably get ripped limb from limb. If you could get behind them and maybe get to the eyes or something. Now, I will say this. I Googled this morning. And it said a full-grown silverback can bench press 4,000 pounds.
They bench
that could
press?
Be a problem.
They bench?
Well, I don't know if they're like at Planet Fitness, but apparently they have some strength advantages.
4,000 pounds?
That's what it said. I don't know.
There's no way 10 UFC fighters.
Gorillas are strong. I'm not denying that. But 10 of those guys.
How much does a full-grown male silverback gorilla weigh?
I'll tell you right now. How much does a full-grown silverback gorilla weigh? It's 430 pounds.
Okay. 430 pounds.
It can lift thousands of pounds of dead weight. That's what it says.
So it would just be throwing dead bodies all over the place.
And it's compact. It's only 5 feet. So like you're talking just like a ball of steel.
I don't think you could inflict enough damage. Like a flying leg kick probably does nothing.
No, you're not gonna the guy's not gonna submit via calf kicks.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But that's what I'm saying. You can't attack it. We can't attack 10 at once. So the gorilla has a distinct
5
advantage.
at once.
What?
5. You could go like.
What do you all go in and start like biting its arm? It doesn't work.
I'm not going to be in there. I would
have no mobility. There's no range of motion if you're all in that close.
But you can. Yeah, I mean,
I don't know. I think it'd be very, very I think to all attack at once seems very, very, very difficult. Benny said you're confusing 10 regular citizens and 10 UFC. Yeah, but UFC heavyweights aren't fighting silverback gorillas. They're fighting other humans.
Not regularly. Those guys in Dagestan might. Nothing gets past those guys.
All right, so hold on. You have to. How would you do? Because I just told you how the silverback gorilla would win. I just laid it out. There's no method of attack. There's no range of motion. You can't get in there in tight quarters and fight him when you've got a bunch of these fighters all around. And he just mauls you all one at a time. You tell me how the USC fighters could win.
So you would have to you'd have to get into like some sort of wave where you'd have 2 guys on the left, a couple on the left, a couple on the right. You'd have to get behind them. That's the key. You need someone to like control, and then just a couple people on each limb would be the move. But I maybe they can't hold them down.
Okay, so if you could do that, and then you just like pin him till he's out of stem, or you pin him down and then they just bash his face in, the remaining ones.
Yeah, I mean, I have it on pretty good authority. The gorilla's not going to tap.
No.
So no, we need Herb Dean to take a point. I don't know.
Maybe you're right. Maybe that's the only way you could do it. You'd have to pin down.
Yeah, I fully admit. I think I'm wrong here. I would say that.
Because even if you pin them down, if this is a gorilla that can lift 4,000, that can bench 4,000 pounds, and you're pinning his arms down, he's literally just going like this and throwing grown 200+ pound humans off of him.
Yeah, I mean that again would be an issue. They also have like I'm pretty sure they could just like bite you and you would have serious problems.
Oh yeah. But yeah. All right, let's set it up. Man, imagine if we still had gladiator times, like
with all the shit that's wrong with the world, like I would sacrifice a lot of that garbage for having this. Like,
would you go if there was a Coliseum type thing?
I'd probably go if I could bet on it.
I would go.
What do I care?
I'd probably pay decent money to watch that.
I'd say this last thing, and then we can get out of here. As much as I wouldn't want to be in an octagon with the gorilla and these UFC fighters, I'd rather take that on. Originally, this question was about people in a pool against a hippo. I don't think like 500 people in the water against a hippo could win. Those things are the most dangerous animal. I'm sure you know that, but hippos don't mess around.
Yeah, with one of the strongest bite forces ever. No, I would much rather go against the hippo.
What?
Yeah.
That's horrible. That is worse than my original take.
Okay.
First of all, you're in water. So
how agile are they in the water?
Hippos are insane. They're like Tyreek Hill fast.
You would for sure be losing people. People would be dying, but that is actually a spot where you could get on the hippo's back, gouge its eyes out.
Are you insane?
Why?
I hope I don't sound like this when I talk about the gorilla.
Oh, you just did for sure. Because I think you're taking. Let me look up hippo swimming.
It's not like hungry hippos. Those things are insane.
What? They're not fixed pieces of plastic that you move
that are like yeah, exactly.
They're ferocious animals. That's why Crocs don't attack them and all.
Nothing attacks them except you, apparently.
No, you're asking if I'd rather go up against them or if I'd rather go up against a silverback gorilla.
Yeah, it's not even. Hippos are fast. Do you know how fast the hippo is?
Not as fast as me.
19 miles an hour. They can hit speeds of 30 miles per hour. That's faster than you
in the water?
No, on the land.
Oh, you said water.
Well, I mean, I can barely swim, so I have no chance. But even in water, they don't swim slow.
So hold on, I'd be in a pool, right?
Sure.
Okay. I would be
Olympic-sized
up against the wall.
Pool.
I'd push myself off of the wall as he comes. Has to be timed properly.
Go flip turns.
Get on his back. Get on his back. They got fat ass necks. He's not turning around to bite me, and I'm taking the eyes out.
Do you know how big a hippo is?
No, I get it, but they're
upwards of 16 feet.
I get it. They're big fat blobs, though. In the water, even if they have some agility, if I can use the walls to my advantage, I could get on that fat fucker's back and I could take his eyes out.
If you think that, even though you're wrong, I don't know how you don't think that the UFC fighters could do that to the gorilla.
Because you have with a gorilla, you're on land.
Well, you better hope you don't get a hippo on land because they can run 30 miles an hour.
I just told you I wouldn't go near a hippo on land.
I think I'd rather fight 2 gorillas on land than 1 hippo in the water.
What? Do you know how insane you sound?
Do you understand when you're in the water, it's like playing a road game. Like I'm on land right now.
Mm-hmm.
Water is an element you don't want to be messing around with. You don't want to take on things in their home field. That's why NFL teams try to get home field so they don't have to play in the water.
Guess what, dude? I bet if crocodiles had arms the length of mine, they'd be going after hippos all day in the water.
No, I don't think that's accurate.
I want to know what Chad has to say about this.
They're saying a lot of things.
I think my approach, okay, one-on-one, silverback gorilla on land or hippo in the water. Clearly the hippo.
No.
Yes. What do you mean?
They are so destructive. In water,
yes.
That's where, if you ask the hippo, if we had a third person on the show and it happened to be a hippo, which would be a miracle in itself, and we asked them, would you rather face people on land or water? They would say water.
But they're big fat logs. Like, yeah, they have its own. Okay, think of it this way, right? With a hippo in the water, you only have to worry about the mouth, the bite. With the gorilla, you have to worry about both hands and them biting the shit out of you. You're eliminating, 2 ways to get killed. And there's only one now.
But I don't know this. A hippo can't kill you outside of just, those, obviously it can bite you to death. They can't like strangle you.
What's it going to bat you to death in the water with a stub feet?
I still that.
I think you're coming around to my side here. I think
No.
I think I'm starting
no. Not even close. I'm just wondering if a hippo could like punch you.
I don't know. Conscious saying Laffy is thinking a hippo is slow and needs to visit. I'm not saying they're slow. I've been to the zoo. I've fed hippos big heads of lettuce at the Camden Aquarium. I get it. But with a gorilla, your chances are negative 500.
You don't understand how much worse something would be. This is like saying like, okay, take on a condor, but one exception, you're flying. Like, well, that's going to end horribly because they have advantage. Why? Because they have wings. Like, you're in the water.
Yeah.
You are in the water. That is a double death sentence.
But again, it's only one way that they can kill me. Gorilla can rip me limb from limb, or he can just gnaw out my jugular with one fell swoop.
I know they're not fast in the water, but I mean, I will say, truth be told, maybe this is just because I'm such a bad swimmer that I don't like understand, but I still think that you don't want to be messing around with hippos in the water.
Dude, they swim 5 miles per hour.
So what? I'm not saying escape. Like, yes, I would admit if I had to escape for some reason, I might choose that. But if I was going anywhere near one of these creatures, I would rather somehow have to deal with the gorilla.
So Justin says 5 miles in the water is faster than I can swim. I can guarantee that. Yes, but that's why you use, guys.
What do you have floaties on? That's not going to help you.
What?
The little things on your arms to make you float. That's not going to help.
Why would you do that? You'd be a sitting duck.
I know. I don't know what you're saying.
You wait for them to come after you. You're up against the wall. You push off the wall. You're getting a good 10 plus miles per hour on that initial push. Then his fat ass head hits up against the wall. You jump around and get on its neck.
No. See, this is
how easy do you think it is for them to turn in a swimming pool up against the 90-degree angle on the wall where they're coming after you?
It's not Katie Ledecky out there. They'll figure it out. What do you think? They have to stay in their little lane? Like, they're gonna figure it out. And I genuinely don't know. Chat says this. You've got to be trolling. I'm gonna find out after the show if that's true.
Who has to be trolling?
You. What do you mean? Everything I said makes a lot of sense.
How would anybody that would rather fight a gorilla in hand-to-hand combat on land over at least have a chance of using the wall and all of that stuff to your advantage? Plus, gorillas are way smarter than hippos.
Is that true?
It must be.
But I mean, well, why do so many people die of hippos? Hippos kill it's absurd. It's like COVID, heart disease, hippos. Those are the things that are plaguing society, apparently. Hippos mess people up.
Hold on.
They do. Apparently, we're not getting into this, but apparently if a zebra bites you, you can forget it because they never let go. Like, they got to kill the zebra. Super grip.
A hippo can easily kill a gorilla. They have much larger teeth.
Obviously, we already knew.
No, I know that, but I'm not talking about hippo versus gorilla. I'm not either.
I don't do animal to animal combat.
Yeah, that's different. Like, that's a lot different in a spot like this. But give me the hippo in water. How about that? How long do you think you would last against a hippo? Against a gorilla on land? How long do you think you would last? Honestly, I'm asking you to set an over-under on time.
In a confined space?
Yeah.
I mean, I try to befriend it.
No.
Like Mighty Joe Young.
No. He's pissed.
How long would I last? Not long. I mean, the problem with the gorilla is I assume if you try to climb, that's a recipe for disaster, right? Like, they'll just go get you.
Oh, yeah, you're toast. You're not running away.
But it doesn't matter because that's not a real point. Because
in an octagon, how long would you last? You can't climb out of the you can't climb out of
Yeah, not long, but not that much shorter than how long would I last against a normal UFC fight? Like any of this.
You would last longer in a pool against the hippo.
No, well, even if the hippo wasn't in there, if I was in a pool, I might drown. So like, I'm not sure that's gonna.
I can't believe people disagree with me that they would rather fight in an octagon. They'd rather fight a gorilla or they'd rather fight a hippo in a pool.
Okay. What do you think's easier? Standing in an octagon with no gorilla or just being in a pool?
Again, wall to the advantage.
It doesn't matter though. You have to focus on staying afloat. Never mind a wild animal. With the gorilla, standing in the octagon and moving is second nature. You just have to worry about the gorilla. The pool is deep.
Well, you never said that. The pool, every pool has a shallow end.
Oh, what are you going to fight him on the steps?
No, I'm going to use the wall, hold myself up on the wall, and push off every time he comes in for attack to the other side of the wall.
So what are you going to wear him down? Like when you used to play Sonic and Knuckles, you got to jump. And then the guy is so slow, he runs to the other side, then you jump. It's not going to work. You don't think he's going to figure that out?
I would last longer in a pool against a hippo than I would in an octagon against a gorilla.
That is inaccurate.
All right.
It is.
Maybe I'll try it.
Go ahead. I'm telling you, do the gorilla first so you could maybe report back. Because if you try the hippo first, we'll never know.
Wait, you think you could survive a gorilla attack one-on-one?
Is that what I said?
Yeah, you said maybe report back.
Well, I no, you're not going to be surviving either, but you can, at least we could identify you with the gorilla. The hippo, you could just forget it. Like you're just done. You'd
be picking my limbs off the second deck of.
What do you think? You're going to come back and do the first look next week and tell the story of how you swam against the hippo?
How I slayed a hippo in a pool?
Yeah, that seems likely. I hear that if I had $1 for every time I heard someone just in the shallow end of a pool outsmarted a hippo. Sure.
Insane that you guys would rather fight a gorilla. Dude, straight push off, get on his back.
Push off. Why can't you push off the cage?
into the night?
Superman punch him. Push off the octagon. I see guys do that. They push off the cage.
But it's only a mouth. Like as horrifying as that massive bite force and sharp teeth are on the hippo, he can't get you with his hands.
I don't know that. You think that, but you don't know.
What is he going to grab you with a nub?
He might.
Hi.
I'm just saying.
Anyway, you guys are the best. Appreciate. We haven't really lost any viewers somehow.
I mean, I'm sure the customer service channel is probably flooded with we hope you enjoyed that. I certainly did.
Yeah. Sorry for keeping you around so long, Mike. All right. Yeah. All right. Well, Mike, what would you rather do? Fight a hippo in a pool or a gorilla in the octagon? Just you, hand-to-hand combat.
Obviously.
Yep. No, he'd rather fight the hippo. What? Obviously.
There's no running. It's swimming around him.
Right. I want to live a little longer. That's all. And when I'm ready to die, I'll just stick my head in the hippo's mouth. Call it a night. I don't want to have the gorilla eating my fingers while I watch.
Okay. Sure. On that note, no better way. I can't even dignify that with a response. It's so insane.
No, because it's just sensible and you can't counteract logic with illogical response.
Friend of the show, Ashton Coates. Can we make this a regular discussion with different animals? Sure. Next week, we're going to talk about 3 Komodo dragons, but you have a sword. Just think about that. We don't need to do it now. Just think about that.
Okay.
Those things are dangerous too.
Do you think you could escape the jaws of an anaconda?
No.
We'll see you guys back here. Next one. Conference championship. Appreciate you guys. This has been fun. There's 9 likes to 100. I haven't asked throughout the show, but before you go, you'd be kind enough to hit that thumbs up. Leave a comment down below. Remember, BetMGM, Prize Picks, 5 free days, whichever it is you guys are looking for. It's all going to get you access. It's all going to get you great stuff. 3 months of Stokastic Plus Platinum in the description and in chat. We love you guys. We'll see you back here soon. Ben's at JazzRaz DFS. I'm at Loughran_D. And shout out to Mike for producing this one. Peace.